So for my original work, I originally wanted to create a spacecraft that could create an electromagnetic field or superconducting field around a spacecraft that would protect astronauts from space radiation. However, over the summer, I discovered that this idea was already taken by CERN. They work out of Europe. So I was trying to think of something else I could do because I really liked this idea. So I ended up creating a spacesuit, as you can see down there. I'll scroll down. But basically, it's kind of similar to a spacecraft, the spacecraft model, but I wanted to make something that would allow astronauts to go on spacewalks and not have to worry about the exposure to radiation. This is because, you know, astronauts are much more susceptible to developing cancer, even just within a few spacewalks in space. And especially, this is extremely important on long-distance missions, for example, to Mars. Theoretically, the mission to Mars wouldn't be possible if astronauts were not protected from space radiation. And another reason why I chose this idea was because women who work on the ISS actually don't get to spend as much time on spacewalks as men do because they have a greater risk of developing cancer. And I think every astronaut should be allowed to spend equal amounts of time in space. So when I was still, I knew what I wanted to do for my idea, but I needed a ship to implement it in. So in this case, it was the spacesuit. And, you know, I wanted to use something that would be able to be used in years to come. I didn't want to use, you know, the modern NASA spacesuit that most of you have probably seen, which is white and bulky and basically makes astronauts look like a giant marshmallow. It actually makes it more difficult for astronauts to move because they're basically inside an inflatable bounce house trying to work on the delicate inner workings of, you know, if it's like the ISS or their spacecraft or a space rover, you know, that's not very safe because, you know, if they're having to work against the pressure within their spacesuit on delicate machinery, there's a chance that they could break that and ultimately end up making the mission last even longer than it should be. So some of the things I had to look into was what kind of spacesuit I was going to use if I wasn't going to use that. There are a couple models that people think will be used in the future, but they still maintain this similar bulkiness that the normal or classic white astronaut suits use. And I didn't think that was the best idea. And I came upon this skin-tight spacesuit, and I thought this one was the best option to use because it mimics the effects of gravity to prevent loss of pressurization in a vacuum environment. It basically squeezes your skin to mimic, you know, the 9.8 newtons of force that you feel every day. And then there are also a couple other things about my suit. So for the electromagnetic coils, I decided to use an electromagnetic field instead of superconducting. But there were a few downsides to doing that. An electromagnetic field generates a ton of heat, and although graphene is an excellent conductor, that's still a lot of heat for an astronaut to take. So I decided to create a second layer, or a two-layer suit for the astronauts. And you may think this sounds a little crazy, but the base layer is actually meant to insulate and heat the astronauts. This is because they're exposed to the extreme frigid conditions of space. And another thing about this suit that's pretty interesting is that it incorporates the shape memory alloys that I was talking a little bit about earlier. Basically, these are certain metals or materials that can maintain multiple forms. Most of them maintain 2 different forms, but there are some that maintain 3. For this suit, there only needs to be 2. So basically, when exposed to a certain temperature, the coils, or the shape memory alloy coils within the suit will contract to fit tightly around the astronaut, ensuring that there won't be any leaks in pressurization. And then oxygen for the astronauts is accessed by flexible tubes connected from the back of the helmet. The oxygen tanks and rechargeable battery pack are contained inside a pack that is secured by clasps that are sewn in the suit. So because graphene is such a great conductor, it actually saves energy, which means that you don't need a bigger battery pack than what astronauts normally use in a spacesuit. If anything, you'd probably end up using a smaller one because there's literally no resistance within graphene. And then the electromagnetic coils are woven into the spacesuit around the center of the body and the appendages, creating an electromagnetic force field that will protect astronauts from space radiation. So this is kind of like how Earth has an electromagnetic field around itself that protects us humans from radiation every day. And ISM has been a very fun journey for me, and it was interesting developing my original work. Because of being in ISM, I've had to grow more comfortable with talking in front of others, and I've also learned a lot of information. I probably haven't been able to share it all because I forgot some of it, but it's been crazy to learn about all the different types of information in this field. And for the future, I'm excited to work on my final product and continue music engineering. So hopefully I've shared with you guys something new that you haven't learned today. Thank you for listening.